What's up, everybody? Hope everybody's well. Making it do what it do. Making your dreams come true. All that, all that, all that. Um, Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, share. Want to new subs? I really appreciate it. Over 10.8K subs. Truly, truly appreciate it. If you're not a member of the members only channel, make sure you join. We're supposed to do a show every Thursday. We decided on, but it's been a little busy, a little hectic, so I couldn't get to it, but we'll get to it. Um, so members only stuff, content, make sure you join that. Hit the like button, subscribe, share. Let's get into it. So I just got out the shower and I'm on my way. Did a little workout and did a little workout. Got in the shower, so my beard is still a little wet, dusty, water dripping. All right, so let's get into it here. So let's talk about forgiveness, and I want to start this off with forgiving yourself. Most important. I know a lot of people, man. I'm a senior. I'm almost a daggone senior citizen. It's crazy to say, right? Senior man, elder, mature. I got brothers in my own age group who are still harboring stuff from 25, 30 years ago. I'm talking about stuff that happened in their 20s. Absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy. We gotta forgive. We gotta forget. I don't know about forget. Forgive and forget. I've never been down with that. But I certainly don't have to harbor this stuff, hold it in, can't losing sleep, letting gray hairs pop up, losing your hair, gaining weight, losing weight over stuff that you can't control, right? Suffering, depression, and all this other stuff over things that happened to you years ago. Years ago. And it's unfortunate. I'm not saying that to be braggadocious and to be boastful, but I'm saying this to say to get the work done. Whether that is therapy, and I have my issues with that, I really do. I think that I did a video, probably going to release before this one, about friends and making sure you have friends, someone to talk to, and all that. I'm just talking about releasing the energy, releasing the self doubt, releasing the depression, releasing it. No, it's not easy. I acknowledge that it's not an easy process. I acknowledge, wow, I acknowledge that big lava walks. Whew, it's hot. I acknowledge that it's not an easy process. I acknowledge that different personality types will be more likely to hold on to things. I acknowledge that. I acknowledge, but there's got to be some steps and some tips that we can have, take hold of, implement every day to to get things done. Now you know yourself way better than I do. You know yourself way better than I do. If you need to write on your refrigerator or on your mirror every morning, I'm going to have a better day today. I'm going to forgive people. I'm going to forget the mistakes that I made, um, that you made. You need to do that. So let's start it off with forgiving yourself. Forgiving yourself is one of the hardest things you can do, right? I heard a saying one time: "Mind forged manacles are the hardest to break." In other words, the things that happen to us, that we learned by, that we were associated with, that we were socialized into, that were imprinted and impressed on us at young and early ages, are definitely hard to overcome later on in life. The things we learn as a kid, they're hard to break as an adult. I acknowledge that. But there is work. It is possible. You have to do the work. Remind yourself every day. Write it down in a card. When you get in your car, tape it to your steering wheel. Set an alarm on your phone. Put it as a screensaver on your phone. Instead of football memorabilia and other stuff, put some positive saying about forgiving yourself. Particularly if you are suffering from depression, or you just seem to be paralyzed from the past, right? You think that somebody remembers. You walk into a store, you walk into your job, you walk into a university, you walk into a family reunion, you into your church. You think everybody's thinking about you and everybody's remembering all the stuff that you did and all this, that, and the other. It's not the case. I told the story before, and I'll tell it again. Something I heard, I think I was in my 30s when I heard it. When you're in your 20s, you think that everybody's looking at you. When you're in your 40s, you don't care that you're looking at you, that you don't care that people are looking at you. And then when you're in your 60s, you realize that that they were never looking at you. So that was when I heard that, I tried to adopt to the best of my ability the mindset of a 60-year-old, understanding these people have their own lives. They're now looking at me, what they got going on is vastly more, what they got going on in their life is vastly more important than what I have going on in my life, according to them, right? So their children, their families, their marriage, their relationship status, their car that broke down, their house that they're trying to buy, their refrigerator that needs to be replaced, their carburetor, their whatever, right? Whatever. Their tires that need to be rotated. All that is so vastly much more important than a mistake that I made when I was 20, or the situation or the thing that I said that can't go back and change it. There's a lot of things that I wish I could go back. We all wish we could go back and do that thing over again. And listen, I believe in taking accountability. I believe in looking at myself. I believe in thinking things through. I believe in making adjustments. I believe in all that, right? But at the same time, I'm not going to beat myself up over it. I'm not going to lose sleep over it. I made the mistake. I did that. I did it. It happened. It's a real thing. I'm going to remember it. It may have some serious consequences, right? Children might have come out of it. Financial devastation might have come about it. But you got to take these opportunities. Here's the biggest tip: you got to take these opportunities as learning experiences. You have to learn from your mistake. You have to learn from the things that you messed up on in your life. You have to learn from those types of things. Beating yourself up and getting mad about it and getting disgruntled and wanting to hurt people and punching walls and losing sleep and messing up your new relationship. I mean, if I to be completely, totally honest, that was a big problem for me on my half on my relationship. Now it takes two to tango. It takes two to tango and tango. Um, but I got to take accountability for the things that went wrong. And one of the things was not being able to forgive myself and not being able to get over it, not being able to get over certain things, and that is such a crippling device for so many people. You can't move on to your new relationship because you're still stuck mentally in the previous relationship. You can't let go of the old job. You're triggered every time somebody said something because they remind you of an old relationship. They remind you of an old boss, or they remind you of a friend who you thought was a friend who really, stabbed you in the back. You're not able to let this go. And I'm not talking about forgetting it and never learning from those types of situations. Be cautious, be careful, and all that. But give people the benefit of a doubt, right? So everybody don't know. And everybody's not trying to push your buttons. Everybody's not trying to trigger you. Everybody's not trying to do that, right? So we got to try to figure this thing out. So that's forgiving yourself. One of the biggest things is learn from your mistakes of the past. Don't hold it against yourself. Acknowledge the mistake. Speak it out loud. Say it out loud. Say it with your chest. I messed up. That's why I think that friendship is so important. That's why I'm saying that you need to have friends who you can confide in, a confidant who you can trust. You got to get that stuff out off your chest. And sometimes you got to cry about it. Even you, big, strong men, you got to cry about it. You gotta let that energy out. You gotta let that energy out. You cannot harbor that. You cannot hold it. Right? There's power. There really is power in releasing that stuff, letting the tears flow, speaking it out loud, getting it off your chest. Even if you write a letter, write an email. You don't have to send it to anyone. You don't have to mail it, but just express it. Don't hold it in. This is all scientifically backed, right? Get it off your chest. Get it out. Release it, right? Release it out there. Write the text message. Don't send it. Write the email. Don't send it. Write the letter. Don't do it. Right? Write it. And when I went to therapy, here's a therapist tip. When I went to therapy, she's like, do all this stuff, right? Write it. Do whatever, and then burn it, right? Do it. Let it out. I'm sure there's other therapist tips out there what people can do. So, therapy may be an option for you to really, really, because I think that therapy is really for those who really don't have connections. You really don't, and I'm not talking about friends or someone. I'm just talking about, listen, you can't trust anyone. You've been burned before. You don't know who you can trust, right? There's deep, dark inner secrets about, sexual stuff that happened to you, or you don't trust your friend, and I don't trust your friends with that type of information. Don't trust your girlfriend or your wife or your husband, boyfriend, whatever, with that type of information. I'm not going to tell you to put yourself in a compromising position, but I am going to tell you to do what it takes to get out of that and um, to work on those types of things. So those people are good for whatever they're good for in your life, and they enhance your life in some way. They enhance your life in some way, then that's fine. But if you don't, you still got to find someone who you can feel confident enough to express those deep dark secrets, whether they are desires or deep dark secrets that you hope that nobody ever finds out about, but they're causing you ulcers, causing you psychosomatic problems. You got to figure out a way to do that. To release that for your own mental health, so not so they can move on, so you can look them in the eye or shake their hand at a cookout. I don't care nothing about that. I care about you and your mental health, your stability, your psychosomatic issues that you may be going on, right? You always got stomach problems, right? You always got a burning headache. You got all this other stuff that's going on because you're holding stuff in. Stop holding that stuff in, right? Filled with a life full of regret, filled with anxiety, filled with depression. Excuse me. And that depression can lead to anxiety because if you think you failed in the past, or you're depressed about things that have happened to you in the past, therefore you're anxious about the future because of the past mistakes or past situations that you've been in. So you haven't been able to confront those things and get rid of them, right? Then let's talk about, we'll finish this off with forgiving other people, right? Listen, other people, part of life is people doing you wrong. Part of life is doing people wrong. Part of life is people are going to do you wrong. And they're going to make mistakes, whether intentionally or unintentionally. I am the type of person, right? I'll be quick to listen. That's not what I said. That's not what I meant. I'm sorry you took it that way, but here let's get to the bottom of this. You and I may disagree about anything, but I don't like being misunderstood. And I think a lot of times people, even in, I used to be a minister at a church, and people would, I'd be speaking or whatever, and they would come up to me, I appreciate when you said this. I'm like, I didn't say anything close to that, right? And a lot of times it happens here on the podcast, right? People will say, man, I really appreciate, your breakdown of this, that, and the other. Email me, whatever. I'm like, or even a comment section, like, I didn't say that, but if that's what you heard, but the problem, it's not a problem when they hear something positive and they took something positive. But when they misinterpreted what you said and take it in a negative way, then that's a problem. That's an issue. And I don't like that. So you and I can disagree about anything, politics, religion, whatever I say in a show, an episode, or whatever. But I don't like being misunderstood. So, um, but that's me. So you're going to be misunderstood. You're going to be misinterpreted. You're going to be misconstrued. People are going to take your words out of context. They're going to try to manipulate your words to make you say things or believe things or make other people believe things that you said or whatever. That's part of life. We want to live in a world that is hunky dory and that are full of honest people with integrity. That just ain't the. If you're still looking for that, that's a very juvenile way. Not that you're a juvenile, but it's a very juvenile way of examining and looking at the world because we all don't have that. People have their motives. So you got to forgive people. They may have messed up intentionally or unintentionally. You got to forgive people for your own sanity. You got to forgive yourself, and then you got to forgive you. You got to forgive other people, because if you don't forgive other people, you won't be able to move forward. You'll be harboring things. You'll walk into a room, look at someone and be side-eyeing them. You will be doing that, and you can't advance. You can't move forward. You can't focus your full attention on the next endeavor that you got going on, the next situation, your next project, whatever. You can't give your full attention to that because you've got stuff that you're harboring, and you're looking at this person. You think this person knows something about you, and you're worried about other people. And so I really want you to understand that you really, really got to focus on other things, and you got to be so busy. Your life has to be so busy of doing the right thing and doing what's best for your financial, academic, familial relations that nothing else matters. I'm not telling you to ignore people. I'm not telling you to be mean to people. I'm just telling you to forgive them and move on for your own mental health, for your own sanity, for your own prosperity, for your own benefit. So those are some things, right? So you got to speak these things out loud, actively forgive them. Don't mean you have to be around people. I advocate. I advocate. I don't care who they are. I don't care who they are. I advocate for not being around people who cause you misery, pain, strife, anxiety, stress. Family member, mother, father. I told a story about the guy Michael Beasley who did a podcast. Michael Beasley's former player in the NBA, found out his own mother, was stealing from him. His own mama. His own mama was stealing from him. You know, it's one thing you got family members stealing from you. It's your agent, your manager, all these different people, all these different handlers that are around you stealing from you. When your own mama's doing it, you know, it seems as if that should be unforgivable. You know, but that's your mother, and you know, it is what it is. But you know, you gotta, you know, how do you shut that off? How do you cut them off? How do you navigate that world where the person who brought you into this world would engage in that? And I'm not going to pretend to have the answer because that would be difficult. That would be difficult for me to deal with when your own family, father, mother, are taking money. Your own brothers, sisters are stealing money from you, and all this. It seems to be unforgivable. But I wouldn't be around them. I wouldn't be around them. I wouldn't be around people who are deliberately manipulative, deliberately negative, deliberately conniving, engaging in debauchery, thievery. I wouldn't. I don't care. I don't care who they are, because my stress, my enjoyment, my peace is more important than the relationship. You can be friendly, but we don't have to be friends. You may be family, but I don't gotta rock with you like that. You do what's best for you, and you figure it out. Again, you know yourself better than I do. You know your personality type. You know what you can forgive, what you forget, what's going to keep you up at night. And if you don't, you got to figure that out. That's part of the process, right? You go to therapy or whatever, they're going to ask you, okay? Probably make you take some personality test, right? Because they got to figure out which method is going to help me to help you, right? And so you got to figure all that out. You got to do some deep diving, some deep critical thinking, and be alone with yourself. A lot of people don't like to be alone with their own thoughts. They always got to be around somebody. You know, their own thoughts scare them. They can't be alone. They always got to be entertained. Music got to be playing. Noise got to be going. Again, if that's not a negative. That's you. That's not a negative. It's you. But you know, whatever it takes for you. But what you have to do, what I suggest you do, is really try to dig into whatever is bothering you and dig it out. That's what I'm suggesting. That's what I'm hoping you get out of this, right? Whatever way that is, you got to figure all that out and get to that. So, so I just want to drop this right because a lot of people I know are still harboring stuff from 20, 30 years ago. And I just can't believe it. I just can't believe it. So, work on yourself. Understand, you know, who you are and what you can tolerate, what you can't tolerate, right? And then speak it, right? If you have a problem with someone, for all you biblical scholars out there, right? There's this passage in the Bible where Jesus said, you know, I think it was one of the authors, somebody in there said, you know, if your brother um, offends you, you know, rebuke him. I think it says, right? In other words, tell him about it, right? Here's what you did, man. I didn't like when you did this. I didn't like when you said that. You know, I really felt some type of way. So it's my turn here. You know, you really made me feel some type of way. And if you repent, so continues the scripture, if he repents, then forgive him or her, right? So I'm advising for that. I'm suggesting that, right? Go to somebody who has offended you, who's hurt you. Tell them about themselves, right? Sometimes people don't know. Sometimes people don't know. They don't know. They don't know what they said. They don't know how it was their tone, their language. Their, you know, you think that they were throwing shots, throwing shade. Crazy. So I hope I said something right. You know, at least to start you on your journey. I recognize that a 20-minute video or so is not going to be the be all end all, but I hope that I can get you to spark something that you can forgive other people, so that you can move on, you can become something greater, because you got moves to make, and as long as you're harboring and holding things in, you're not going to be able to focus your full energy and attention. If you lose sleep at night, you're not going to be the best version of yourself when you It's time to get up in the morning, right? Whether it's something that happened 20, 30 years ago, or it's something that happened 20, 30 minutes ago. You gotta be able to get that stuff straight and have a conversation. You gotta be able to get that stuff straight and have a conversation. So, all right, everyone. You know your thoughts, your opinion in the comment section. If there's anything you want me to talk about, hit me an email. I do have a couple of shows that I'm already working on. Some good questions I got asked. Some of it I got to do a little bit of research on, but it's good. I appreciate that. So hit me an email if there's anything you want me to cover or a topic or anything like that. I tend not to follow celebrity news and gossip and stuff, but the show I did with Tyler Perry and Kurt Franklin was on it. So a lot of this other stuff I don't know what's going on. So you got to send me that if you want me to talk about it. And there's lessons to be learned from these different types of people. So much love and peace, everyone.